What's going on, boys? Noah Guys here. Welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to go over camera angles. What's the best camera angles, what's the best one to use, which ones I use, and which is the best to basically improve your performance. Now there is actually a meta camera angle, surprisingly or not. The best way to test camera angles is if you go to settings. There's obviously different camera angles, but the best way to see how it actually works is if you go into a game. This is from the Foot Championship, it's like a random game that I found. And what you can do is you can press the square button and you can change the camera angle. Now, the default one is Tele Broadcast. Now, this is a decent one. The reason why I don't suggest this is because, yes, it's more zoomed into the pitch. That's the benefit. But the issue is that a lot of the top tier players only use this for the simple reason is that they look at the radar every single second. If you're playing a game, FIFA, and you're not looking at the radar, you should not be using Tele Broadcast because Tele Broadcast has a very zoomed in approach. So what that means is if, for example, you have the ball in this segment, I know my camera's in a way so you can't really see the top right, but it's hard for you to see the entire pitch. You don't know what's going on over here or at the real top. You don't really know. And it's the same with Tele. Tele has that same thing, and so does default, is that you're very limited into what the pitch looks like. You're just seeing a small square. Whereas if you go to co-op camera angle, which is the more superior camera angle, you can see everything. You can see distance between your right back and his left mid. And in fact, you can see, if you look at Cancelo here, I think that's Cancelo, you can't even see him you can't see him in Tele Broadcast. You can't see him in default, or you can barely see him at the tip of his head. You can't see him on classic, you can't see him dynamic, and you can't see him on Tele. So that's the issue, is that you can only see him on co-op. So the thing is, if you know that he's there, then it's fine. But a lot of these top tier elite players and pro players, the radar, what's normally over here, they normally glance down at the radar. So when they're in the game, they glance down. You have to think of this yourself. You got to say to yourself, how many times you look at the radar? Do you look at the radar every 5 seconds or every 7 seconds? If you don't, then use the co-op camera angle. Now, why is this important? If you're trying to build up and you're stuck with Tele Broadcast and he comes and presses you, you're not going to know you got an exit strategy guy at the bottom. So that's why building up, it's really beneficial to use the co-op camera angle. That way you can basically you can see everything. Now, there's one myth that keeps going on around that everyone keeps saying to me, oh, the co-op camera angle, it makes the game slower. Well, obviously it's just simple science or physics, whatever you want to call it. Obviously the camera angle is zoomed out, therefore it doesn't have to pan as much. Therefore, because the camera is not moving as much, the game feels naturally slower because the camera is not moving as much. Whereas if you use Tele Broadcast, it's much more zoomed in. So obviously the camera is going to pan, sway left and right a lot of the time. Therefore, the game is going to feel faster. It doesn't mean the game is faster itself. Obviously, that is completely absurd to think that one person can have different gameplay from the other person. So no, it doesn't affect the gameplay standard. But that's why I use Tele Broadcast. Even me myself now, I use co-op because personally, when you're in a situation like over here, and let's say you have nowhere to go, or let's say your opponent is pressing you, with a co-op camera angle, you can see, for example, players here, and you can also see how much space is where your attacker is and where your opponent's defensive line is. That's what's very important. A lot of those things you can see in co-op. That way you know, for example, if you do a ball roll, you can make a pass Ronaldo, and then you can get the ball and then decide to do a fake shot, or you can do an elastico or something to break into the space. The problem is, in this exact same situation with Tele Broadcast, you can barely see. You don't know if he's got a player over there. You don't know how far he is. And even then, you can't see the bottom of the pitch. You see that? This whole bottom of the pitch, you can't see your right back. Now, especially if you're playing the 3-5-2, the 5-3-2, the 5-2-1-2, you need to see the entire pitch. So that's why the co-op camera angle is very important. You see some players using default. Now, this is another thing as well. The camera angle should be more of a top-down view. This is more of like a slanted view. The issue is that it's the perception from here to here is different from here to here. So if you're only attacking down the right-hand side, it's all fine and dandy. But when you have the ball on the top hand side, it's much difficult for you to see the game. So the perception is not important. Obviously, when you're shooting towards goal, you don't know, for example, how close your opponent is towards the goal because of the perception of the camera angle. Whereas co-op, you can basically see the difference, the space, the proximity between you and your opponent, and that's why the co-op is the best camera. Even for shooting across goal, biggest co-op has, well, if you increase the depth, has the best top-down approach. It's easier for you to make your shots towards goal. So not only is it easier for you to make your chances to see plays. Like for example, like here with Mbappe, let's say you're inside the box. If you're panicking this situation, you might not know who to pass to, and there might be a player as a right wing back or a right back coming inside, but you might not see him. Whereas with, as you can see with the co-op cam angle, you'll be able to see him. One thing that I find that's really most important is when you're defending. Defensive phases are very important. Let's say for example here we're going to take the person in green, or whoever has the ball over here. So let's say the ball gets played, the ball's now in the mid, okay? Let's say the person in white has become very aggressive. Now this is the thing. Let's say the person in green was aggressive there, he lost the ball. If you're using Tele Broadcast, when you're defending this, you have to assume that you can see every single player on the pitch. When the ball goes back to this position, what if your opponent does a through ball down the wing, or does a through ball to his left winger? Now you can't see this left wing. Now we know through balls are killers. People are doing an L1 trick, then doing a through ball. You can't see that player there. You don't know where he is. So, but if you have the co-op camera angle, again, you can see exactly where your defensive line is and where his player is, and you're able to react. So also it gives you more time to react. So that's why I would say I highly advocate using the co-op camera angle. I'm going to back out of this just to go over the settings. I'm going to show you in the main menu the settings that I use, because everyone keeps asking me about my camera angle, and I can show you where you can change them. So it's going to go over to the main menu, back all the way to the main menu. Of course, this works for Ultimate Team in any single game mode you do play. Go over to Customize, go over to Settings, and then go over to Game Settings. You want to go over to Camera, and this is where you can choose them. Single player. Now multiplayer camera angles is for multiplayer. Let's say for example your friends playing with you next to you, you've got two controllers. That's what multiplayer camera it means. Single player, this means for online game modes, basically all online offline matches. If you're just playing by yourself, then you just change the camera angle. I normally go down to then you have the camera settings. I go down to custom, and basically the camera height. Now the higher the camera height is, the more of the bird's eye angle you want to get. In my opinion, the camera height should be 20 on every single camera angle, no matter what. That way you got the best perception, you got the best accuracy in terms of where players are relative to where the ball is. Camera zoom is one where if you change the co-op camera angle, you might find the co-op camera angle is too zoomed in. I'd recommend starting on 20, that way you have the camera zoom on 20, so that way it's more zoomed in. And eventually, I'd work your way to 0. The reason why 0 is the best is because if you can see everything on the pitch, you can react to everything. You know where your right back is. You know if you press with your right mid, you know your right back's out of position. You can recover. You can't see that even with co-op zoomed in. So that's why the benefit is zooming out. You can see everything. I normally go towards 2010. In case you're wondering, I use 2010 because I look at the radar a lot. So if I can't see a player off the screen, I still look at the radar. And in fact, a lot of pro players even now still use the co-op cam angle, especially because those through balls are going in behind. So I'd recommend co-op cam angle for every single person that wants to get better at FIFA. Even if you're an Elite 3 player and you want to push to Elite 1, especially learning how to manually press, it's very important that you see where all the players are on the pitch just by glancing at the screen as opposed to looking down at the radar. Then obviously when you look down at the radar, if your eyes are focused here, your eyes are not focused on a pitch, and your opponent can just get the ball off you and then counter attack you. So as well, it's very important. One question I do get asked is the camera angle, does it change depending on stadiums? Yes, it does. Depending on what stadium you use, some camera angles are more zoomed in, some are more zoomed out. There's a different perception depending on the stadium. So I would say sometimes you might see a camera angle look a bit more zoomed in. So do bear that in mind. If Foot Champions, everyone uses FEWC, but if you're using Rivals, everyone does have different stadiums. But that's the camera angles I use, custom 2010, and of course I use the co-op camera angle. As I said, I recommend this for every single person. And in the event, not trying to make the video go too long, but one question I get asked is for TV monitors. If you have a big TV monitor, let's say you've got a TV 50-inch and you're sitting far away, I'd recommend going to 20. If you're sitting very close, like I would say in arm's length, I would say a TV in front of you or your monitor, I would say go towards 10 or maybe even go towards 0. So obviously it depends on your TV size as well. But that's what I'd recommend for camera settings, and that's the reason why I use the co-op cam angle and why, of course, I advocate it. You'll change the co-op cam angle, you're probably going to lose like 5 games, maybe even 10 games. You'll be like, what's going on? I'm not used to this. Don't worry, stick with it. I promise you in the long term, it will very much help you. And if you're in the description right now, comments down below, do let me know what cam angle you do use if you don't use co-op cam angle. And if you did use something else, you did change the co-op cam angle, maybe let people down below know what's the biggest differences you saw on the co-op cam angle and why it did help you. Maybe that can help people, give people a bit of an understanding on why the cam angle is really good. But I'm talking too fast, trying to get this video closed off as quick as possible. We've already reached a 10-minute mark, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks for watching, boys. Take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.